Now we are going to discuss about operating system, the principle of operating system subject. In this subject, unit 1 is Introduction to Operating System. Operating system is act as an intermediate or interfaces between the user of the computer and the computer hardware. The purpose of an operating system is to provide an environment in which the user can execute a program in the convenient and the effective manner. The operating system software that manages the computer hardware. The functions of operating systems are process management. The OS schedule and allocation of CPU time among the multiple processes uses the process scheduling algorithm like FCFS, round robin, and priority scheduling. Memory management manages allocation and deallocation of RAM to a process, that is called as memory management. Next one is a file system management, device management, and IO management. These are all the functions of an operating system, which will additionally include network resource management, error detection, and handling. Next topic is generation of operating system. The first generation start with the 1940s. The first generation of operating system emerged during the 1940s and the early of 1950s. On that period, when a computer were in the infancy, the earlier stages were primarily used for a scientific calculator and the lack of sophisticated operating systems we have today. The characteristics, no operating system on the time they are uses a vacuum tube technologies. So that vacuum tube which will occupy a large space and produces a lower performance. So these are all the drawbacks we were faced in the first generation period of 1940s to 1950s. Second generation was developed from the period of 1955 to 1965. The transition of vacuum tube to the transistor-based system. The transistors are being used and act like a computer becomes a faster, and the space of the transistor is less compared to the previous generation and the more reliable. The third generation developed in the year of 1965 to 1980s. So that is the transistor from both processing to multiprocessor. So in this methodology, the single process to multi-programming techniques are being developed. The multiple programs can be loaded into a memory and executed concurrently. So in this generation, the CPU utilization becomes increased. The fourth generation developed from the year of 1980s to present days. The fourth generation of an operating systems becomes the personal computations of graphical user interfaces and the networking, mobile computing, and artificial intelligence technologies become used, which replaces the traditional command line interfaces, making them computer easy to, which is used by all. So in this the terms of operating system means filling the term. So you may consider the examples like a car, aeroplane, printer, washing machine, compiler. Like this, operation can be act as the intermediate between the user and a computer. So the structure of operating system, which will uses a hardware, operating system, application, programs. So the operating system acts as a middleware layer between the computer hardware and an application programs. It can be categorized into two types, system program and application program. The system program, in the sense, the operating system which will be act in a kernel level. The application programs are being accessed in the user level. So the computer system organizations are be like this. It will include the computer component like CPU, disk, USB, graphical adapters, and then a memory. These are all connected with the common centralized bus. The disk control the number of disks connected with each other. The USB controller are used to connect mouse, keyboard, printers, and the graphical adapters are used for displaying purposes. The interrupt timelines. Some of the interrupt may occur while you are using input-output devices. How the interrupt are being handled in operating system, which will storing a registers and the program counter methods are used to solve the interrupts. The interrupt-driven I/O cycles are be like this. The interrupt are handled through the commands. Interrupt service methods are used to solve these computation process. The storage structure which uses volatile and non-volatile memory, RAM and ROM memories are used to for storing of data. The speed of storages become characterized into a three types: speed, cost, and vulnerabilities. So this is a hierarchical storage structure which will be start from the bottom layer is called a magnetic tape and the topmost layers are registered. In between the optical disk, hard disk, non-volatile memory, main memory and caches are being located that are be categorized into a primary, secondary and territorial stages. So these memories are also in depthly characterized into a slower memory as well as the faster memory. Multiprogramming, the single user cannot always keep the CPU and the IO systems are busy, so that we go into a multiprogramming to improve the CPU utilization. So that purpose the multiprogramming concepts are used. Here the multiple codes and data are being executed in a concurrent way. While we are entering into multitasking, we need to bother about the following: the response time, CPU scheduling, and virtual memory concepts. So these are all the multi-programming concepts. Only one operating system. So that operating system, the multiple processes are being shared and accessed at the same time. That can be operated either in a user mode or else in a kernel mode. So this is a user mode process and kernel mode. The always users are in a user mode process while they want to performing any activity. In the sense, on the time the controllers move on from user mode to enter into the kernel mode. After completion of the task, the automatically shifted from kernel mode to another user mode. The process management is program in execution is called it as process management. That can be categorized into a passive and active method. The process management actives are creating and deleting the both user and system process, suspending and resuming a process, providing a mechanism for process synchronization, process communication and deadlock handling. Next one is memory management. The memory management determines what is in the memory and when it is being move on from the memory to the processor unit. Final one is file system management. Files are usually organized into a directories. Access control on most system to determine who can access what. Creating through this file system management, we can create and deleting files primitives to manipulate the files, mapping a files into a secondary storage. We can also back up when the non-volatile stages. OS activities or mounting and non-mounting, free space management, storage allocation, disk scheduling, partitioning, protection. IO subsystems represented for memory management of IO, including a buffering, caching, spoofing, protecting, and securities. Visualization allows the operating system to run application within another OS. Emulation used when a source CPU type different from the target type. Generally, a slowest method when a computer language is not compiled to native code, that is called it as interpretation. The visualization is OS natively compiled for CPU running on the guest OS. The ghost OS and the guest OS. The primary OSs are ghost OS. The guest OSs are act as a virtual OS. So this is a diagram without a virtual machine and with the help of the virtual machine. So here the three virtual machine also uses the three kernels so that we can process a number of processes at a simultaneously with the different processes while you are performing a multi-programming. So these are all the advantage. Your throughput get increased. So the scalability also increased, improved reliability. The multiprocessing can be done in through ways. One is asymptomatic, other one is symmetric and asymmetric. So in this symmetric way, the main memories is being shared with the multiple process, so that can be accessed the memory in a non-uniformatic way. The clustering techniques also used: asymmetric clustering and symmetric clustering. Asymmetric in the sense one machine in hot standby mode have the multiple nodes are running application and monitoring each in the sense that is comes under the categories of symmetric mode. So this is a client server computing. So the server becomes a one. The client systems are a number of systems. You may connect a desktop or a laptop, smartphones. So which are all connected with the server through a single networking concept. So this is a P2P communication. Every client are connected with every other client. The cloud computing concepts are categorized into three: public cloud, private cloud, and hybrid cloud. Public cloud are shared by all the public peoples. The kernel databases are being organized like in a tree structure: parent and child node. The parent node always root the client node. Thank you.